All right, the first and only U.S. vice presidential debate took place last night between Tim Kaine and Mike Pence, and it it seems, and it's not unanimous by far, but it seems like Mike Pence won, and he was calm. He was on his talking points. Some people said after the fact that some of his talking points are abhorrent regarding abortion and whatnot. But, that's a matter of opinion, especially in the US, that seem to lag behind the rest of the world in terms of some of these issues. But assuming Mike Pence won, and I'm recording this while things are still rolling in, but I'm not sure that this is a good thing for Donald Trump going into Sunday's debate. And I'm not saying this as somebody who has a horse in this race. People get really mad at me when I talk about this election. I want to be clear. I am looking at this as somebody who is not a U.S. voter. I'm Canadian. I live in Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen. And yes, this does affect everyone the world over. The president and the vice president are very powerful people when it comes to global geopolitics. But I'm studying this from a media perspective, seeing how the media handles it, seeing how the candidates handle it from a media point of view. And this is where I think that Pence's solid performance is gonna hurt Trump on Sunday night, because Trump once again has not prepared for this debate in a traditional way. Pence did. Pence said, I heard earlier today, that he's been preparing for this debate in one way or another since he got the call from Donald Trump that he wanted him to be his vice president. So he has worked very, very hard to create the result that he produced tonight. Now that undermines Trump's narrative that he's such a innately talented performer that he can just wing these debates and win them anyway. And let me tell you, as somebody who's been a performer from about the age of 12, competitively or professionally, there is no such thing as an innate performer. There is star power, but you do have to practice. You do have to refine your craft. Donald Trump is used to reality television, and the bulk of reality television is made in the editing. Yes, you do get better at delivering zingers. You do get better at understanding how to sort of build drama, but you don't necessarily become a seasoned performer. You have to work at it. And Pence showed that, hey, you put in the work, you deliver a solid performance. And Trump is going to have to get up 2 debates in a row now and try to make the case to America that even though he didn't put in the work, he deserves the job. Now, taxes, whether or not Clinton did things with emails and her Clinton Foundation, whether Trump fundraised correctly, whether he used his foundation inappropriately, all this stuff aside, let's unpack that for a minute. Trump is making the case to Americans that he deserves a job he is not prepared to work for. And when there was nothing to compare it to, there was nothing to compare it to, right? He could tell people anything they wanted. There was no direct comparison other than Hillary Clinton, which does become more difficult to compare and contrast because, according to Donald Trump, she doesn't look presidential. And some say that's a dog whistle for the fact that she's a woman. You really can't compare Hillary Clinton straight up to any other politician in history other than perhaps Jill Stein at the Green Party. But Jill Stein has not had to do these presidential debates. She didn't meet the burden. So yes, she's a female presidential politician. In that way, you can compare her and Hillary on sort of a one-to-one scale. But in terms of debate performance, what's expected, you really can't. Nobody has done what Hillary Clinton has done before. You can't even compare it to Sarah Palin's debate performance, because the role of a vice president in a vice presidential debate is different than what the job of a president is. And to put it very simply, in a presidential debate, you have to show America you can do the job. In a vice presidential debate, you have to show America that the top of the ticket can do the job and the top of the other ticket can't. Your target isn't your opponent. Your target is your opponent's running mate. And in this way, yes, Tim Kaine interrupted. Yes, Tim Kaine I thought they both seemed nervous, but Tim Kaine very much seemed more nervous. I noticed that the palms of his hands were going decidedly pink as the night wore on. But he did get some licks in regarding Trump. He effectively reminded the public who was watching about Trump's notable weaknesses. He did defend Hillary Clinton on some things, although the strongest moment I thought he had was the, ironically, counterpunch he did with the attacks on the Clinton Foundation, and flipped it right around and turned it right back on Trump. And I don't think he got quite enough credit for doing that. The other moment he did exceptionally well is outlined as a person of faith how he can support legislations he doesn't personally agree with, because he doesn't think that in a country with freedom of religion and freedom from religion, his religion should dictate everybody. I think that those were very strong moments, and I think that even though he made more mistakes, he will come away with more moments that people remember in favor of Hillary Clinton and to the detriment of Donald Trump than Mike Pence with his poise and his, now let's not insult. Well, I mean, people aren't going to quote, now let's not get into insults, except to compare them to Donald Trump's insults. I don't know why he keeps doing that, because it just makes Trump look bad. It makes Mike Pence look very good. It's really presenting Mike Pence to the world in a way that makes him look like the biggest grown-up in the Republican Party, because he's doing his duty. He's serving. This is service. When he took the job, he knew about Trump's negatives. He knew Trump was essentially a long shot because of his lack of experience and his, temperament and honesty issues. But I think he's positioning himself very well, because unlike someone like Ted Cruz, who has flip-flopped on Trump, and it was a flip-flop. It's not an evolution. He flip-flopped. He said he wasn't going to endorse him, and then he did. But I think Pence has this nice combination right now of being the solid conservative voice, and I'm talking social conservative voice, in this election. He seems like the grown-up in the Republican Party, and his name recognition is going way up on the national level. So it's possible Pence is running his own race here on the gamble that if the Republican Party continues on its socially conservative trajectory, and there's no guarantee they will, that's a big gamble. But if they do, if they still want one of those large C conservatives, that Christian conservative Republican in that order, that's a good line. But Pence is going to be very well positioned. And so we might see, Mike Pence running for president at the top of the ticket in 4 years. And if Trump wins, well, he won't have to. He'll be vice president. So interesting. In the dirty world of politics, Mike Pence might be quite smart in this regard. But in the short term, I don't think he did Trump any favors.